This is Generation Green's Wildflower Project, the podcast that starts conversations to create connections on this journey we're all doing called life. Together, we can grow through what we go through and bloom in spite of it all. So let's be like wildflowers and see where the wind blows us. Welcome to Generation Green's Wildflower Project. I am Sherry Sobey, and I get to sit down here with my lovely friend, Alison Ritchie of Voyage Herbals. Hello, Alison.
Hello.
Thank you so much for inviting us in here to your beautiful space. This is your new space at 113 Marion in St. Boniface. Yeah. And so this is a recently new kind of, I guess, new part of your journey. Something that I think that you've been leading up to, because when I first met you, it was, my goodness, almost 7 years ago, really.
I know. It's been a while.
Yeah. And I remember you were planting seeds at that time for this, weren't you?
I was.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a big year. This past year, 2018 and 2019, it's all about moving forward and, taking a step out of the door and taking a chance on things and, seeing where I can go with that.
Yes. And I mean, it's really kind of, I think, organically grown on its own here, because you've always been very much into herbalism, into gardening, into birth work, earth work, being a doula, all that kind of stuff. And then when I met you, I think that's what you were doing was the birth work aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And doing some classes there, and now it's really progressed. So what would you say is kind of like is it all of that kind of come together to be one big focus, or are you still kind of like dabbling in all of those areas?
Yeah, I'm definitely dabbling in, I guess I have a lot of passions in life, and I feel like there's room for all of it and there's time for all of it. So it's just, they're my passions, and I love to share them. I love to, I love the earth. I love birth. I think there's so many similarities in all of that. I'm endlessly fascinated with the mysteries of nature and of women and of, the sort of women mysteries. If that makes sense. I don't really.
Totally, it does. Yeah. And I think because we've had conversation previously too, just about, the history as well, right? And how traditionally, women were together for birthing situations, and then also just for celebrating. And I'm really trying to learn a lot about that as well, and about the different celebrations, the different cultures, the different ways of, I guess, expressing the divine feminine. And that's definitely your forte, is with women.
Yeah. No, it really is. And it, like, even the pregnancy classes that I teach, it's also about the celebration of it. I mean, we live in an age of so much information that it's very easy to become fearful of the process of pregnancy, of birth. It's just information overload. So it's also about stepping back and saying, hey, this is amazing what I'm doing. I'm going to laugh about it. I'm going to share with other women. I want to know, or just explore it in a way that's healthy, and not have this undertone of fear. Like, if something's going to happen, it's like there's this fear that lurks around the corner all the time with pregnancy and birth. And it's like, well, we need to be educated about these things, but it's also, I'm trying to bring back the beauty and the fun part. Like, it can be an very enjoyable time in a woman's life. You're very in tune with things.
Yeah. And I think even going to the part where, where you're becoming a woman, where those things are starting to change for you too, there is beauty in that as well, if we stop and recognize it. Because I don't think we've been taught that, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, this is happening to me. Great. And then for some, they don't even know what is happening because they haven't really learned it. I think now, they learn a little bit more in school, but there's not the celebrating part of it, because they used to have those
rites of passages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to really kind of take those moments and enjoy those moments more, and we would just be, I think, just more in tune with ourselves as well, more understanding about the process of things. But I don't think we just kind of tap into that natural instinct that's in us, or that natural desire really to celebrate those things, right?
Right.
And I think that we have actually talked about that even too, about, just ancestrally, about how those things have, been passed on or not passed on, and where it's been broken and where we got to pick it up and fix it, and all of that stuff.
And I think everybody wants to be seen for their process and what they're going through and acknowledged. It's no easy feat being pregnant and bringing a human into this world. And so I think a lot of women identify with the classes that I teach because they're looking to have that sort of tribal community aspect to things that we just don't have in this modern day anymore.
No, exactly. Because it is such a celebration time. It's such a sacred time. And you don't get that when you're in that institutional type of birth situation, right?
Right.
We want it to be such an experience for us. We know what is happening here and what, the enormous kind of change that's about to happen. But to be able to tap into that on a more spiritual level even, I think would just make it even more beautiful.
Yeah.
I didn't get to have that myself personally, even as much as I want. I kept thinking, I want to have that gentle birth. I want the lights dim. I want to have music. But I didn't get to have that, right? Because I didn't know how to go about getting, but instinctively, that's what I wanted for my child. I wanted them to come in that way. And I know, I can see why people would want to gravitate to you too, though, because it's the very first impression that you just radiate, you ooze nurturing, you ooze that comfort. And I can see why kind of, coming and being guided with you would be such a beautiful process. I'm just kind of picturing it. If I could go back and have a do-over. And I know, and I'm older than you, but you are just, you just want to, you can take care of people, is that feeling that you get being around you.
Thank you. That's very nice to hear. Truthfully, I never had this. This is the class I wish was around when I was having my children, when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind that all the classes that were out there were always focused on the birth and not the process itself. And I think inherently and innately, we all know how to birth babies. I mean, that's how we got here. Somewhere along the line, we were told we don't know how to do this and we need to take classes, which is ridiculous. So the sacred pregnancy classes focus on getting in tune with yourself and knowing, and creating a practice within yourself so that, you've done some sort of inward journeying, because sometimes the blocks that come up in labor and in birth are actual emotional blockages. That sometimes a woman has to have a big cry in order to release something in her body, and then, what do you know? She's progressed from 5 centimeters to 7 centimeters. There's these inward obstacle courses that we kind of have to go through. And I think when you give yourself the opportunity and set yourself up in sort of a pregnancy practice of committing to some time every day to do some deep breathing, or, try and connect with your baby, try and listen to maybe things that are trying to come through for you. When it comes time to birth your babies or your baby, you don't have to look outward. You have everything you need in you and within you. And the sacred space is you. You are that. And it's stepping into that and realizing I'm everything that I need. Hip squeezes and all of the ice packs and everything are wonderful, and they're a great physical part of it, but we are not just physical people. We are multidimensional. We have spirits. We are emotional. We are mental. There's so many aspects to us that seem to get overlooked. It's just all about the physical.
Right. And each one being so unique too. We all experience and feel differently about things. So the process with you then, with the sacred pregnancy. So people can connect with you for like the classes, but you're also with them for like before, during, and then after as well. Like this is the services that you offer, right? And I can imagine how emotional and draining that can be on you as well. Like I know that you would probably be putting your whole self into that, like that whole experience, and giving so much of yourself with it.
Yeah, I've actually had to pump the brakes on how many births I can attend because I don't do anything half-assed, because I am wholly with that woman when she's going through the process of labor and delivery. But yeah, I'm focusing a little bit more on the postpartum, in that because I run a business here, I can't be leaving a workshop to go attend a birth right away. You know, so at least with the postpartum work, I can kind of catch them on the other side of that, hopefully through classes and preparing them enough that they're going to have a good experience when it comes time to birth, and I can kind of catch them on the other end of that and, you know, help to build the bridge, because it's like, it feels often that women birth their babies and it's like, see you later.
I was just going to say the postpartum part, I think, is huge. And I think we all of us women that have birth babies, we're going to deal with postpartum. There's different variances with it, of course. Some have, it's like with everything, with perimenopausal, with menopause, we all have different degrees with it, but there's not a lot of resources. And I actually remember a specific time when after one of my children, I really had some serious postpartum, like a lot of anxiety with it, to the point of panic almost, where I was so overwhelmed with the need to protect. And I recognized that, okay, this is like some hormone stuff happening here and readjusting. But when I went to my doctor and explained it, he gave me a number to call. And the number was out of service. It was enough to, like, for some women, I would say in those extreme situations, to just make that phone call. And then where do you go after that? There's nothing. And then you're just left alone with it. So tell me a little bit about what the postpartum plan that you have to offer.
Well, the postpartum plan hopefully starts in pregnancy. It's about getting yourself prepared for life with a new human. You know, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge smack in the face. Like, oh, my God.
Truly. It truly is. So I focus a lot on nutrition.
Okay.
Because it's one of these pillars that needs to be full, or at least constantly replenished. Because whether we realize it or not, you're giving birth to your nutrition. Basically, when you have a baby, they take what they need to take nutritionally from you. And if you're not actively working to replace what has been taken, you know, through literally building a baby or through breastfeeding, you're going to end up in a state of depletion. And so, you know, I focus a lot on making sure they're eating a lot of healthy fats, a lot of high quality proteins. This is where the herbal medicine aspect is so helpful, you know, just keeping the minerals and the vitamins up in your body. So yeah, I mean, even the sacred pregnancy classes, we talk a lot about nutrition and building that. But an actual postpartum visit would be even just witnessing this woman and what she has gone through, listening and hearing her story of, you know, debriefing what her birth looked like with this new baby. It can be incredibly turbulent. I mean, and I speak from experience with that. I mean, my first child, I was shocked. I had postpartum depression. I'm pretty sure I had PTSD. It was such a traumatic experience. And it wasn't until about 6 weeks after I had him home and with him that I feel like I almost snapped out of this fog and this state of like, what the hell was that? Like, is this the way we're bringing children into the world? And, you know, I still, like, my son's going to be 11 in May, and I still have a hard time looking at photos of that time just because I felt so raw and so not heard and understood, and I wasn't getting what I needed. And so, you know, I bring herbal, like, it depends on the which direction the birth went. If it was a pretty smooth sailing birth, that's going to look a lot different than, a woman who has had a cesarean birth. Mm-hmm. So I cater to the needs of that. But I cook food. There's gentle massage. I bring all my herbal knowledge into that. It's hearing them, helping out with a newborn, helping with breastfeeding. Are you getting enough sleep? What do you need from me? I see you. I essentially mother the mother so that the mother can take care of her new baby, because that's all the baby needs. The baby doesn't need anybody else but mom.
Right.
And so moms need to be mothered. And so I guess I kind of play that role, and I'm that archetype of, because we don't live in this society of like tribal living and community, we're all in our separate houses, we're all connected through social media, but what is that?
Right.
Who's there to like hold your hand and say, hey, you just did something amazing? And, maybe mentioning that postpartum hormones have been compared to drug withdrawal. Mm-hmm. Like it is, whoa, this is a big swing in hormones. And so saying, it's okay. I see you, and what you're going through is normal. Or, if I'm seeing some red flags, at least I can source out and, connect with other resources where I feel maybe I'm not qualified or...
Yeah. Well, I think, there is that part afterwards. If I remember, back after I had my child, each time too, I've had 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And I remember that alone feeling, even with people coming by and, bringing food or what have you. And, they want to hold the baby and stuff like that. There was so much more though that I felt that I was missing as well. Mm-hmm. And it's that also that comfort. You don't have that. You don't have, like, the public health nurse would come once and you have 101 questions and you're not really getting them answered, and you need lots of reassurance. Yeah. And you need lots of encouragement. And I don't know if there's always a lot of people that know how to do that for a woman, and know what they're needing individually at that time too. Mm-hmm. And yes, the nutrition part of it, the nursing part. I mean, how do you know if your baby's getting enough? That was my big one. Yeah. How do I know? Maybe there's not, enough there for them. There were so many different questions, and I just felt so alone in it, I think.
I think it's an isolating experience for many of us.
Yes.
And it can be terribly isolating and lonely, and at a time where, you want to show the world, like, look what I just made. Mm-hmm. And you want to have someone to have your back, in that you can relax a little bit and know that somebody's taking care of you, that somebody has your best interest at heart, and that, okay, I can relax. I'm going to relax just a little bit more so that I can sleep, and because I know somebody's looking out for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm also just trying to get it out there that, baby showers are great, but what women really need is a meal train. Mm-hmm. They need people to come in and maybe sweep their floors and take their garbage out for them, so that mom can focus on replenishing herself and resting. And it's been compared to the first 40 days postpartum is a direct reflection of the health of yourself for the next 40 years. So it is imperative to look after yourself. We give so much of ourselves as women.
We do, yeah, and we can't take care of anybody if we've been talking a lot about this. If we don't take care of ourselves first, it's so important, and I think it's easy to lose that sight of that, especially if you have another young child at home, or you just feel this enormous amount of responsibility to just get the house clean, get the meals done, spending quality time with the other younger sibling you have, or child.
Yeah.
The amount of responsibility, I think, is overwhelming, and when you have that new baby, it's just like exploding with that. Like, again, that is just overwhelming. That's the only word that you can use for it. I think it is something it's so hard to prepare for, really.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
Going into it, it's like I had no idea. I was like hit by a truck after having my son, of just like, how did I not know this?
Yeah.
Like, how could nobody have told me how difficult it was going to be to breastfeed so often?
Yes.
Like,
oh my gosh, yes.
It's not just like a couple times a day. It's like
constant.
I was naive, and I didn't realize, and I thought that I was prepared.
Yeah.
And I had no clue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I I want there to be conversation around the realities that some women can face, especially ones that have had very, medicalized births that need a lot of care in their postpartum. You're withdrawing from pharmaceutical drugs that help you, and there's a place for those. But, there's...
And then just the recovery from the trauma itself.
Absolutely.
And the degrees of it as well. My first one as well was like, I didn't know if I was ever going to be normal again. Mm-hmm. And nobody was telling me, how I was going to recover from that. I did not have that reassurance. I really thought I was damaged goods now.
Yeah.
And then each pregnancy and each delivery and each after part was so different. Mm. So just when you think, and you think you're prepared, you just get thrown sideways. Like my last one was with nursing. He was attached to me 24/7. Mm-hmm. He just used me as a pacifier.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what was happening. I was like, this baby is so hungry all the time and I can't keep up. Mm-hmm. And it was draining and exhausting. And and then I had 2 others. Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, unbelievable.
Well, and it's setting yourself up for severe adrenal fatigue.
Yes.
And that's what I experienced because, second time around, this is my second baby. I know what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I thought I had to hit the floor running because now I not only have a newborn, I have a toddler as well. So there's no time to sit around and rest. Mm-hmm. I need to be up and doing this. And that was the worst thing that I could have done. I was so on that I couldn't fall asleep. So, I was always anticipating, okay, I'm going to hear crying right away. Anyways, I ended up losing hair. There's a certain amount of hair that you lose naturally after you have babies, but I was just not sleeping so much that I was wasting away because I thought you can't rest. What does it mean to be a mother in the 21st century now? You have to bounce back. You have to do this. You have to do that. It's that is such crap. Mm-hmm. Let's reframe this. Let's take a look at this. What is this very vulnerable season in a woman's life? Mm-hmm. It's really delicate.
Yeah.
It's really delicate.
And we see the images on social media too, where again, we have to remind people mm-hmm. want to show the best moments. Yeah. You're not hearing and seeing the whole picture here that goes on because it's easy to start comparing too. And it's like, oh my gosh, and feeling inadequate in that as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is a really difficult one, I think. I also wanted to ask about placenta. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you do anything with the placenta. I was always kind of like, ooh, I don't know about that. But the more I think about it, I always thought, oh, it'd be nice to plant it and mm-hmm. kind of give that back to Mother Earth, of thing. But what are the benefits of that?
Well, placenta encapsulation or placenta, ingesting the placenta has been around, that's 10,000 years of Chinese medicine that's been happening. And most mammals consume the placenta. It is chock full of minerals. It was seen as even many mammals now eat the placenta because it's such a nutrient dense meal. And so it helps with preventing postpartum depression. It helps with the hormone regulation. Some people actually will put it in a smoothie and blend it up and drink it. That's pretty, I'm not going to say, some people can do that. That's not for me. I actually never ingested my placenta. We kept it, and my mother-in-law, who's passed away, she bought us a apple tree when we moved into our home, and my daughter's placenta went under that apple tree, and it is just growing and blossoming like you wouldn't believe. But wow. I think honoring that, that's the galactic womb. That's the connection to source almost. We're very disconnected, I think, mm-hmm. from the primal. We're animals. We're human animals, and there is something to be said for a placenta that sustains and keeps a human life. The folklore around the placenta is amazing too. It's said to be the twin. It's where the soul is held until the baby comes in. There's so much wonderful, amazing stories about the placenta. And
I think that's the stuff I would love to be hearing more about, is that folklore of it. And you and I have had that in common too, where we enjoy that Celtic history and folklore and story and song and all of that.
Yeah.
And the connection with nature, going back to that as well. And I love I'm just visualizing this too, like how wonderful of a celebration, planting that placenta with and growing something from it again, right? Basically.
Well, if you look at where an umbilical cord goes into the placenta, I mean, there's beautiful images out there, but it looks like the tree of life. It's where we all come from. And so just to honor it, you don't have to ingest it, but you know what? Maybe saying a kudos to it. It's an amazing organ.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an organ that is born to sustain a human life, and then it dies, and it asks for nothing in return.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no
We don't
kidding.
give any sort of thanks to these sorts of things, but that is sacred.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
There's no other organ that does that.
See, we're not taught that.
No,
Right?
we're not.
Nobody's taught. We didn't learn that in health class.
No.
Right?
Absolutely.
And when you stop and think about it like that, it's like what I was just saying to you earlier. It's like, Alison, why am I getting a reaction from this picture or this, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's something in us that knows, and sometimes it takes that other person to come and say, here's why probably. You know, here's what it's kind of symbolizing or what have you. Sometimes we just don't know, but we know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
We know, but we don't know.
Yeah, we know on a very deep level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So do you do encapsulation here? Like,
I don't do encapsulation. There are people who do that I work with that
Okay.
I'll source that out too. But yeah, it's becoming very popular.
Yeah.
There's so many births that I've been to where it's save the placenta because they're going to encapsulate it, or at the very least, they're going to go and plant a tree. And just the act of digging this and giving it back to the earth, digging out the earth and putting it back into the earth, I think there's some really good karma in that.
Oh, I think so too. I think that's a beautiful thing to do. And I wish, now I'm like wishing I could have a do-over on all of those things. Like, I'm not having any more babies, but I want to pass that on. Like, that is just, I think it kind of helps you in the whole process of going through it too. When you see it symbolically, like when you have these ceremonial type things, it just helps make the experience that much more of an experience. Yeah. Right? Well, it's just so grand then.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's get honest. I mean, birth is blood.
Yeah.
And it's tears and it's sweat. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's not
not pretty.
Well, yeah.
all the time.
And like, don't be afraid to look at the other side of the coin, because there's beauty in all of that. So yeah, it's sweat and blood and everything you can imagine. And that's how we all get here. So if you're cringing your nose thinking, how could I ever want to even touch that? Well, maybe you need to question that, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's where we all come from.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then you have some healing practices as well. That's all part of it, whether it's from the trauma or just the healing of birth itself, and the self-care. And I love that. And then I guess that's kind of led into the herbalism part of things, right? And now you're actually, have some products that, and you gifted me one of these products. And I love the whole, I want you to talk a little bit about that too. Even just the ritual of when you explained it to me about putting this oil on and what that does. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I have a couple acres outside of the city that I live on with my family, and I've always, my mom always had a garden growing up, and it's where, I remember being a kid and being in her garden and the sun shining on me, and I remember closing my eyes and just kind of having this feeling of being in touch with God, whatever God was. I didn't know what God was, source. I was just connected, and I always remember stuff like that. I remember being in the garden, and I'm a highly sensitive human, so my nervous system gets frazzled really easy. So I gotta be aware of my environments and where I'm spending time, and the garden just always recalibrates me, and it's where I've had some of my most spiritual moments in my entire life, where nothing has happened except I'm standing there and I'm brought to tears because of the profound spirit that I feel just being around plants and realizing that they're conscious and that I'm working with these plants, and I'm kind of just this channel to get these plants to the people who need them. And so I guess I just decided that I was just going to go for it and try and, make some of these products of my own. I mean, I love my garden, and it's a high vibrational, good energy place. So to be able to, harvest the medicine of those plants and make products for people to use is a gift, and I get really excited about it. So I know that I must be kind of on the right track with that. But even the body oils, like I gifted you that calendula oil, and I mean, the whole act of body oiling, which is a very underused way of using plant medicine, is also extremely safe. It's got a high safety profile because you're not ingesting it. But calendula is a very safe herb anyways. But so you're getting this whole plant profile in body oil. And, we forget that our skin is a wonderful way. It's very absorbent, and it's an organ that takes in medicine. So the act of plant medicine in a base of fat, which I usually, like for the body oils, I'll use avocado oil. Your body is just absorbing that plant medicine. It's going directly into grounding and nourishing your nervous system. You're learning the landscape of your body. I think so often, like I have 4 friends right now under 40 that have breast cancer. 4.
Yeah, it's just,
like, what is that?
Yeah.
4 friends under 40. So this blows my mind. So even the act of body oiling, feeling and sending love to your breasts, because so often our breasts are either used for sexual play or for breastfeeding. When are they for us? Mm-hmm. So starting at your neck and working your way down and showing love to your body all the way down wherever you can reach. I mean, that alone has changed my life. And I get so excited about it because I'm like, holy crap, you guys, everybody needs to be doing this. Mm-hmm. Because
and not feeling with the worry of finding something.
Exactly.
Yes.
But if you did find a little bump or something in your breast, it would be very new, because that wasn't there
exactly
yesterday, or like, what is that? And so understanding and learning your body, and it's I mean, I get so excited. It's if I could spend all my time trying to develop and work on products, I feel like that's what gets me the most excited these days, just being a channel to get herbal medicine onto people.
Yeah.
Like, it's so underutilized and a beautiful way to connect with nature, because we are a deficit in nature, most of us. Mm-hmm. So how do we get back to that? Well, like, I've been wearing it.
Right. Yeah.
And it almost feels like I have this etheric boundary, this shield. Like, I've been doing it on the daily for almost 7 months now. And I don't feel, like I say, I'm a highly sensitive person, so I feel a lot. And it doesn't mean that I'm overly emotional. It means that I have a very active nervous system. So at any given moment, when you and I are sitting here talking, I'm taking in so much more of the picture than the average or the person or people that don't have highly sensitive nervous systems. Mm-hmm. So this has been a game changer for me. And for anyone that knows me, knows that in, the last 6 months, I've really kind of came out of my shell and just being like, wow, maybe the world isn't as scary as I perceived it to be, just because I've put this buffer in between me and the world, and it's plant medicine. Mm-hmm. It's been amazing.
Well, it's just, I think your authentic self, right? And living your authentic self and doing what you love. And these are all the things that I've been talking to so many people about. And when you finally come full circle like that, mm-hmm. and you realize, yeah, this is my place, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. It's so hard not to be joyous about that. It's so hard not to want to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
It's like, I found my place. I found my thing. Mm-hmm. I got my groove going on here.
Yeah.
And I think everything that you do is just beautiful. I could sit and listen to you talk, because again, you have that nurturing quality. And I just got to experience that in one of the ritual sessions, the spring equinox.
Oh, yeah.
That with Sam there.
Yeah.
And, just moved me. I just got to stop for a second and actually reflect back on that, because mm-hmm. that was my first time mm-hmm. having that type of group experience. Mm-hmm. And again, I am sensitive as well to the different energies, and I can easily feel when it's good or when it's not.
Yeah.
I immediately, when you have people coming together with that same intention, that vibration of energy is just so huge. Like I've got goosebumps just even, thinking about it. And then adding in these rituals, the one that probably moved me the most was when you passed around the salts and everybody added something to it.
Yeah.
And some people were adding things that were, even from past experience in groups. So again, more energy going into that. And then, the idea afterwards of taking some home with you to later. What was it that Sam said? Something about
being held.
Yeah. That one just, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because of all of that we all just collectively inputted.
Yeah.
There's such power in that. Yeah. And I thought it was the most beautiful, beautiful experience. I encouraged everybody to try this out, and I want to do more of it because my day after that, it was like, I felt so light, so, where I should have been, and just on this lovely path of learning and growing, and it's something we never stop doing.
Yeah.
But it was profound for me.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, and thank you for the feedback. I think that taking the time to pause and acknowledge, especially on days like equinoxes and solstices, those were dates that our ancestors celebrated, like all around the world, no matter where you're from. Those were the times that were celebrated. And when we stop and pause and reflect and kind of take a look at where we are on the spiral of life, it's a good check-in and a reminder that we're a part of something much bigger. It's very easy to scrutinize and get lost in the micro of our days and, narrow in on our problems. But it's also good to, take a break and relax and just realize that it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute. We're floating on like this water planet through space, and like, here we are, the days and nights are balanced again. What is this all for? Like, it's good to check in.
When did that all fall away? Like you said, like that was like really celebrated, by our ancestors. Like, did we just get so darn busy? Like, what happened?
Well, I mean, I'm probably not qualified to talk about the whole...
No, I think you are.
Well, just the calendars were introduced and money. People wanted to be paid, so they had to make these systems to, I don't know, for the world to get their bills paid.
Yeah, the world is one big business. I know that, and I want to like stop thinking that way, and I want other people to stop thinking that way and get back to these old sacred traditions, because I think that it really is what helps ground us, what really helps us get clarification in our lives, what helps us really appreciate, to have that gratitude feeling. Yeah. Because I think that's something too that it becomes a practice, right?
Yeah.
When you have gratitude in your life, I think that's what I think I had most in that moment too.
Yeah.
I had so much gratitude for all of these people that were like, it just filled me. And so if we can stop and have those moments of gratitude every day, ideally, whether it is for the sun, for these things that we just take for granted. Yeah. Right?
Well, and in a place like Winnipeg, we have very distinct seasons.
Yes.
And you can't help but feel rising energy when we're coming into spring, and the days are getting lighter because we experience such darkness here, and like everybody's excited and they've got their lighter jackets on, and it's like, well, yeah, let's speak to this.
Yeah. And even if we were to learn about, eating with the seasons and following that, I think we'd be much healthier all around.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is something to be said about how far your food has traveled, and what we're supposed to go through in those cycles, right? In winter, we're supposed to be more dormant. We're supposed to be gathering. We're supposed to be resting.
Absolutely.
And then, kind of going with the seasons. And then I think there was something even that you had mentioned too about when you're following that type of a calendar, they don't seem so long either, because you're so prepared and you're doing things. You're really in the moment more than, wouldn't you say?
Truly.
Yeah.
I mean, this past winter, it was, as we know, very harsh, but it seemed more manageable because looking at the Celtic calendar is like, well, we're only 6 weeks until the next notch, you know, and then we're further along in the cycle. And it seemed a lot more, in the moment. And then not like, oh my gosh, there's 4 months left of this. It's like, well, maybe, but you know, the light is going to be changing because we know we're here. I don't know. I appreciate those types of things.
Well, I think you have to, you know, if you choose to live in a place like Manitoba, where we experience all those seasons, which I personally love.
Me too.
I love the changes because I love change, period.
Yeah.
But I like having to be able to go through those cycles. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get cozy in the winter, and I'm going to do a lot of reading in the winter. And you just kind of can plan your life, right? I'm going to be more active in biking and what have you in the summer.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same as with the rest of your life and everything you're doing. Well, again, with what you're eating, all of those things too.
Absolutely.
Yes. I really want to definitely learn more about your oils and that. And so are you teaching anything with that?
Yeah, I've been doing, with my business partner here, we've done some workshops on like anxiety. We've done, on how herbs and oils, plant medicines can assist you, holistic strategies for dealing with things like anxiety. We ran one on empaths and highly sensitive people, because, you know, we can sound really woo-woo, like, wow, we feel a lot and there's these vibrations and these energies, and maybe to some people that sounds crazy, but for those people who are empaths and highly sensitive, it is not crazy. It's a reality for people who can be in a room and completely absorb the energy. It can be overwhelming. How are we dealing with this? Nobody's talking about this, or it's being talked about more, but like, what are some things we can do?
Yeah.
You know,
on a more natural level.
Yeah.
And I'm all about exhausting all of the natural resources that are available to us instead of just going to that go-to, take a pill, right? There's many other things that we can be trying. And I think there's many people that would rather go that route. They just don't know where to go. So that's why I want to talk about that. And anxiety is a huge one. I think all of us can say we've experienced anxiety to different degrees. Yeah. And so I know it's something that's relatable, but it's sometimes, again, another one of those things where you can feel very alone in it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were like, oh, I don't know. We kind of felt like we're putting our neck out there of like, is this something that people would want? But we had such a great response, and the class sold out, and we had like, the class itself was incredible and so supportive. And it's like, okay, people want to talk about what their experiences with anxiety is. Like, it's 2019 and this is a crazy world we're living in. And yeah, we all experience anxiety to some degree or another, but some of us really feel anxiety. And, pharmaceuticals may be an option for some people, but yes, what can we do? What can we try instead of that? Or, maybe it's not an option for you to take pharmaceuticals, but there is lots of things that we can do. And actually even just speaking it and talking about it and sharing it with people, we found that it's like, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. And, so now you have some new tools in your toolkit where you can, okay, I'm feeling anxious. What can I do about that? Okay, I remember we talked about this and this, So giving people options and letting them know that they're not alone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, when you come together again like that, you don't feel so alone. And you don't feel so, I'm the only one that maybe felt this way. There's like, oh, you get it. You get it. You get me. You understand. And I think that's it. When you feel understood and heard and accepted and normal.
Yeah.
Okay, I am normal. Like, it's okay to have this.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be great. And we're going to have, and I think it makes you more accepting of other people too.
Yeah.
So whether, you have mild cases of it, you're going to be much more understanding, empathetic to other people that are also having those experiences.
Compassionate.
Yeah. We need much more of that in the world too, right? Yeah. That compassion. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for gathering in circles. and that's kind of the way we set up our workshops, is that it's like we're all equals here. Whenever we do any kind of workshop or whenever I'm teaching, we always try and have it in a circle, just because it's like, well, I'm going to lead this, but we're all teaching here. We're all just here to learn. And and it's kind of set up in that way.
And we learn so much from each other that I think even if you are the one facilitating it, I know even with my own business, and having the Green Store, I've learned so much, because there are those times where you have that imposter syndrome and you feel like, okay, who am I to be teaching this or whatever? But we're learning together and from each other, and it's all for the benefit. I mean, and when that's your intention, just to help others, and maybe you don't have all the answers, or maybe you don't have all the tools, but you're going to slowly start to gather them, right? And it will just kind of organically grow on its own. But when that intention is there, I just feel like that is just truth, and that is just what we need. So the more that we share, the more that we come together, the more that we are open to that, the better for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I often, embarking on this journey of opening up a store or a space to facilitate these sorts of things. It was like, who do I think I am doing this? And at what point are we ever qualified? We never know enough. And I just kind of said to myself one day, like, shut up with this story that's going around in your head, because I know that there's a need for this, and I know that there's people who want this. So at the very least, I'm going to give it 2 years. This is how long my lease is, and I'm going to see what happens. And it's been so overwhelmingly, like, such a great response, and I've had so much great feedback of just trying something different. And I genuinely want to help people.
And that's why you're qualified.
Yeah.
Okay. That is where all you need is in that validation for it, is just knowing what your intention is.
Yeah.
It is felt, and it makes you qualified, because we're never going to be 100% perfect in everything we're doing. But again, it's just all about that intention. I really, truly believe that. And I want to encourage everybody that has that in them, that passion to do something that they absolutely love, and and when the intention is just to help people and to make the world a better place, I just say go for it, do it, because it's going to be so well received. It's just going to be like magic.
Yeah.
You're just sprinkling magic. Okay, Alison? You're sprinkling magic, honestly.
Thank you.
I could just I would just want to sit in the same room with you. Like, just to watch you do it, because you can feel it. I'm not even joking when I say this to you, because I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit with that. You have just this amazing calmness and just this beauty that just comes through, like where it's like a big hug.
Aww.
That's the word for it. It's
Thank
a humongous hug of
that
warmth
makes
and
me
love.
feel great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So what are your next plans here?
My next plans, that's a great question. I'm actually I try and plan 3 months ahead, get my calendar full, but I'm finishing up the last 5 classes of Sacred Pregnancy. I'm going to do another anxiety workshop in May. I've got a couple births that I'm going to be on call for. I'm doing a pop-up here with a couple other girlfriends. Samantha, she does the Akashic readings and intentional jewelry. My friend Tara, she's going to bring a bunch of her vintage clothes. I'll have all my herbal stuff here, and my friend Eliana, her space is just down the hall there, and so she does professional photography.
Amazing photography,
yeah, incredible. So mostly it's just, this is where I can't lose, because if nobody shows up, I'm just hanging with 3 of my girlfriends, and we're having a good time. So I like to set myself up for success that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's win-win.
Yeah.
But it's also coming into garden season. So my other office, I will, be in my garden and planting seeds and birthing. I also like to think of myself as a plant doula.
Yeah.
And, bring these plants into the world to grow and learn from them. They're probably, other than my kids, some of my greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Just to sit with them, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they get me. They just get me. I just like sitting with them, and I take care of them and nurture them, and in return, they do the same for me.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Yeah.
So
I think it's all so beautiful. So do you have a website that people can like check out and find all the info and sign up for whatever it is they're interested in?
Yeah, it's Alison Ritchie, Alison Ritchie, RITCHIE.com. And I post a lot of my stuff on Instagram or my Facebook page. The Facebook page is Alison Ritchie Business. And my Instagram is this_grand_voyage.
Right.
Because that's what this is, baby.
Yes.
It's just a grand voyage.
Yeah, the grand voyage. Like, where did that come from, eh? Grand Voyage Herbals. And that is really what your whole mindset is.
Yeah, it actually came. I was looking up my Scottish heritage and came across a crest. And it's of these two lions. And I forget what the plant was in front of it, but it just kind of, where you have these like deja vu moments where I was like, oh, that's it. And it was like, oh, this is just a grand voyage. Like I'm just here for a minute on this planet, and then I'm going to be gone doing something else. So like, let's make it the best. This is just a ride. Mm-hmm. This is just a blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it came from. And it was the only thing that kind of stuck, where I was like, well, it's different, but yeah, that's what this is. It's a grand voyage, and my life and your life is a grand voyage. And I love it all. I love the darkness. I love the joy. I love the full spectrum of the human experience. I don't think tucking away the bad stuff is the way to do it. I think you just got to walk through all of it with your head held high and your shoulders back, and just, this is life.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. And gifts come in all sorts of packages, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is a journey, and it can be a beautiful journey, and it can be an ugly journey, and it can be all those things. Mm-hmm. But the ugly helps us move into the beautiful. So we need them both, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And I can totally see how this is a grand voyage for you, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I love seeing when people find their thing, find their groove, and do what is just natural to them, mm-hmm. and what their true desire is to see it come to fruition. And it's amazing how the whole garden and the whole birth, and that they really are one and the same.
They are.
Yeah.
I know, it's funny. I started my seeds, a couple of my seed trays the other day, and it's like we all kind of just need the same thing. We need to be cared for and watered and looked after, and we'll bloom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect way to end there too, because I always want to just remind everybody, keep growing, keep blooming, and be happy, everyone. And be sure to check out Alison and her Grand Voyage Herbals. And thank you, Alison, for this lovely moment.
Oh, thank you. I adore you, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, we'll see you soon.